In the dim glow of his laboratory, Dr. Elio Marchesi examined the tiny silver dial on his wrist, his Krona, a marvel of his own making. Most imagined time machines as colossal constructs, all humming wires and pulsing lights, but his device was discreet, an unassuming watch that had the power to fracture time itself. Elio wasn't a natural adventurer. He was a physicist who dabbled in the impossible. But tonight, on the eve of his 40th birthday, he intended to conduct his most daring experiment, a journey to the ancient past to witness humanity's greatest turning point. He selected his destination, calibrated his coordinates to 20,000 years ago, and with a single twist of the dial, the room around him blurred, dissolved, and reformed. The air hit him first, cool, sharp, and tinged with the earthy scent of untouched wilderness. He stood on a cliff overlooking a vast valley, bathed in moonlight. In the distance, he could see clusters of tents and fires dotting the landscape. He marveled at the scene. These were the early humans, ancestors whose lives he had studied but never thought he would see. Elio moved cautiously down the hillside, careful not to disturb the world he had come to observe. He knew every detail about this period, the tools, the language, the early signs of community and cooperation. But as he approached the camp, something struck him as odd. Instead of the expected primal chatter, he heard murmurs, voices that sounded far too modern. He crept closer, hiding behind a large boulder, and peered into the fire-lit circle. His eyes widened in shock. There, in the center of the gathering, stood a woman dressed in weathered modern clothing, her hair tied back, her posture confident and unafraid. She was addressing the early humans, gesturing at the stars, using strange signs. Elio's mind raced. Could she be another time traveler? The woman finished her speech, and the humans dispersed, returning to their tents. She remained by the fire, gazing up at the stars. Elio took a breath, gathering his courage, and stepped into the clearing. "Hello there," he said softly. She turned slowly, her eyes narrowing in suspicion, but her posture relaxed when she saw his attire. "Another one?" she said, a faint smile playing on her lips. "I thought I was the only one reckless enough to come this far back." Elio hesitated, searching for the right words. "I didn't expect to see anyone else here. Who are you?" "Dr. Leela Kamara," she said, extending a hand. "Anthropologist. And I'm guessing by that device on your wrist, you're a physicist, yes?" He nodded, shaking her hand. "Dr. Elio Marchesi. I wanted to observe the early humans, just to see them." She laughed quietly. Noble intention. "But you're in for quite the surprise." Before Elio could ask what she meant, one of the humans approached, carrying a woven basket filled with fruits. He set it in front of them and gestured for them to eat. Lila took a piece and bit into it, nodding in thanks. Elio followed suit, marveling at the simple kindness. "They know we're different," Lila said, watching him, "but they think of us as wanderers from far-off lands, spirits maybe, who come to share knowledge." Elio raised an eyebrow. "You share knowledge?" Lila's eyes twinkled. "Of course. I'm teaching them about navigation, about medicines, a bit of botany. I'm careful, though. I don't want to disrupt anything. Just enhance." "You're enhancing humanity?" He stared at her, conflicted. "We're here, aren't we? Why shouldn't we leave them something useful?" Elio felt a rush of unease. He had spent his life trying to understand time, to touch it without leaving a mark. But here was this woman, sowing seeds of knowledge among people who were meant to discover it themselves. But what if— "Oh, don't worry," she interrupted, a note of irritation in her voice. "I've taken every precaution. They'll still have to figure out fire and the wheel on their own. I'm just nudging them along." The days passed, and Elio found himself fascinated by Lila's interactions with the tribe. She was careful, compassionate, and immensely knowledgeable. He admired her for it, but the scientist in him felt an itch, a quiet warning that she was meddling with forces beyond her control. Yet he couldn't deny the humans' growing curiosity, their understanding of her teachings. Then one night, as he prepared to leave, a storm swept through the valley, fierce and unrelenting. The humans huddled together, sheltering near cliffs and under trees. Elio and Lila took cover near the fires, but lightning struck close, igniting the dry brush. Elio grabbed her arm, shouting over the roar of the flames, "We have to help them!" Lila nodded, and together they scrambled through the chaos, gathering the humans, leading them to safety near a river where the fire wouldn't reach. They moved in tandem, two strangers out of time, guiding humanity's ancestors through the danger. By dawn, the storm had passed, leaving a scorched valley but an unharmed tribe. Exhausted but relieved, Elio and Lila stood on a hill, watching the survivors. "You saved them," he murmured. "No, we did," she replied, her voice soft. "Maybe that was our purpose all along." He glanced at her, a thought stirring. Perhaps that's the only way to travel through time without harm, by being part of the story instead of rewriting it. Lila smiled, her gaze thoughtful. "Maybe we're here because we were always meant to be." With a final nod, they returned to the tribe one last time, and as they took their leave, the humans watched them go, waving and calling out blessings in words too ancient to translate. Back in his lab, Elio stared at the quiet, sterile room around him. His adventure felt like a dream, yet a small woven bracelet, a gift from one of the humans, rested on his wrist, a tangible reminder. He never saw Lila again, but sometimes, on clear nights, he looked up at the stars, wondering if she was somewhere out there, perhaps in another time, continuing her journey alongside those who walked the path of history.